I've got another confession to make. I'm a fool. Yep, as the title says, making Notemon was a mistake. But it's a mistake I'm committed to. Allow me to explain. Making games is hard and takes a really long time. For instance, I've been making games since I was 10 years old, but I only managed to release my first complete game when I was 21. I think most developers face the problem of coming up with new ideas faster than they can finish the old ones, and end up with loads of half-baked prototypes and no finished games. For this reason, I decided that the best way forward for me as a game developer is not to focus on making my dream games, but to focus on becoming a better game developer so that I can create games of higher quality faster. Let's say I wanted to make Stardew Valley. That game has a craftable home area, interactable NPCs with routines, animals to take care of, a very large item crafting tree, loads of cutscenes and events, pretty medium-resolution 2D graphics, a tile-based world, combat, fishing, collecting, and many other features. If I started trying to make Stardew Valley today, it would take me years to complete, if I managed to complete it at all. I'd learn a lot along the way, and each time I learned something big, I'd have to rewrite a lot of my code to adjust to this new knowledge. A decade later, I might end up with something complete, but it will be my first time making a fishing game, combat, NPCs, crafting, and all that. As a result, it'd basically be a collection of my first attempts at each of those things, resulting in a game that doesn't reach its full potential. I think Eric Barone did a great job with Stardew Valley, but you can see that some systems don't live up to their potential, particularly the fishing and combat in my opinion. I think the best way for me to approach such large ideas is to break them down into parts and practice each of those before trying to tackle the whole thing. I'd make a tile-based game where you can walk around and place blocks, a town game where you can meet NPCs who have routines, an animal managing game, a combat-focused game, a fishing game, and so on. Finally, when I'd made all the parts of Stardew Valley, I could confidently undertake the larger task of making the full game, being able to quickly implement these components as I've already made them before and understand the pitfalls. The biggest challenge will be sewing them all together without having to figure out each individual part as I'm going. So when I say making Notemon was a mistake, I mean that even though it's a very small RPG made in Pico 8, it has many different parts. A tile-based world, NPCs with routines, turn-based combat, monster taming, item collection, boss fights, and some other stuff. I've only made a few small games, so I don't have experience making most of these things, even tiny 8x8 pixel art, so I'm having to learn to make each of these components and combine them into a game at the same time. The result, as you can see from the time between the first Notemon development log and my latest patch notes video, is that making Notemon is taking a long time. I should have made a game that just has turn-based combat, perhaps in an arena setting. A game with monster taming like some kind of pet game, a game with a town and NPCs with routines, a game all about boss fights, and a few other little games before trying to combine them all together into Notemon. That way I'd have many games to be proud of and get feedback on, improving Notemon's design, and I'd be able to make Notemon much faster with the experience of already having made most of its parts individually. All that said, I'm not giving up on Notemon. It might look like a case of the sunk cost fallacy, and some of you might say, hey, it's fine if you trash Notemon and go back to making something smaller. But I feel that my integrity is on the line. Not only that, by the time I finish Notemon, I will have not only practiced making all those types of games, but I'll have practiced putting it all together into an RPG. The best bet going forward is to keep working on Notemon, but for my next big project I will definitely practice the parts before assembling the whole. Well, hopefully this video serves as a lesson to some other indies out there to practice making smaller games before trying to make something too complex. If you've got any thoughts or opinions on the things I've said, or have an experience to share relating to game development, I'd be happy to have a chat with you in the comment section. Cheers.